Greetings students and welcome back to our channel Nagin Best Digital Learning. Now children, what were we doing? We were doing Albert Einstein at school, and now we had completed the explanation of the chapter. Now we will do question and answers. Okay children, so let's move forward. Now these are questions from textbooks solved. What do you understand by Einstein's nature from his conversation with his history teacher, his mathematics teacher, and the head teacher? Exchange between Einstein's and history teacher show that Einstein is honest and truthful. इसमें पूछा गया कि हमें बताना है आइंस्टाइन के नेचर के बारे में और कैसे पता चलेगा कि जो वो कॉन्वर्सेशन करता है किसके साथ, अपनी हिस्ट्री टीचर, मैथमेटिक्स टीचर और हेड टीचर के लिए. तो exchange between Einstein and history teachers show that Einstein is honest and truthful. जो व्यूज़ आइंस्टाइन और हिस्ट्री टीचर के बीच में हुए थे, इसे बताता है कि आइंस्टाइन क्या है, एक ऑनेस्ट एंड ट्रूथफुल है. ठीक है. ही एडमिट्स इट्स शॉर्टकमिंग्स फ्रैंकली. He has firm and well-defined opinions. He explains precisely what he thinks. Thus, his basic intelligent, logical reasoning and lucid expressions are highlighted. तो जो ये कॉन्वर्सेशन करता है, ठीक है, उससे हमें क्या पता चलता है कि उसकी बेसिक इंटेलिजेंस का, लॉजिक रीजनिंग का एंड लूसिड एक्सप्रेशंस. ही शोड द स्पार्क्स ऑफ जीनियस इवन एट यंग एज. और उसने क्या दिखाया है, द स्पार्क्स ऑफ जीनियस, ठीक है, एट अ वेरी यंग एज. His maths teacher had high opinion of him. He went to the extent of saying, I can't teach you anymore and probably you'll soon be able to teach me. और उसके जो मैथ्स टीचर हैं उनके बहुत आइंस्टाइन के बारे में बहुत हाईली सोचते हैं, राइट. और यहाँ तक कि उन्होंने ये बोला है कि अब क्या है, अब मैं आपको नहीं पढ़ा सकता हूँ, आप मुझे पढ़ा सकते हो. When Albert said that it was excessive praise, the teacher acknowledged that it was only the truth. He made the point by saying that Albert was ready immediately to enter a college or institute for the study of higher mathematics. Albert himself said, I've learnt all the maths they teach at the school and a bit more. The head teacher told Albert that he was expelling him from school because his presence in the classroom made it impossible for a teacher to teach and other pupils to learn. No serious work would be done while he was in the class. Albert refused to learn and he was in constant rebellion. तो फिर जब उसके हेडमास्टर से पता चलता है दैट ही डिड नॉट वांटेड टू लर्न एनीथिंग, राइट, और वो सारी क्लासेस को डिस्टर्ब करता था. तो नो टीचर वांटेड हिम इन द क्लासरूम एंड ऑल ऑफ देम एंड स्टूडेंट्स कुड नॉट लर्न क्योंकि वो कंटिन्यूस क्वेश्चन करता था. फॉर अ मोमेंट एल्बर्ट फेल्ट टेम्प्टेड टू टेल द हेड टीचर दैट ही थॉट ऑफ हिम, what he thought of him and his school. Then he stopped himself. He didn't say even a single word. Holding his head high, he went out with a sense of pride. Thus, we had lot of self-control. Albert was not at all polite. He addressed his teachers. He was not at all impolite. Not polite, impolite. He addressed his teachers respectively and answered the questions honestly. The school system often curbs individual talents. Discuss. जो स्कूल का सिस्टम होता है वो बच्चों का टैलेंट कभी कभी कर्ब कर लेता है, राइट. एल्बर्ट आइंस्टाइन, miserable 5 years stay at school, is telling a comment on the system of education prevailing then and existing even now. The system of education has no room for individual aspiration, brilliance and aptitude. तो एक्चुअली जो सिस्टम है एजुकेशन का, ठीक है, टिल नाउ इट डज नॉट टॉक अबाउट इंडिविजुअल एस्पिरेशन. एक अकेले इंसान के एस्पिरेशंस के बारे में नहीं बताता, ब्रिलियंस के बारे में नहीं बताता और एप्टीट्यूड के बारे में नहीं बताता. It discourages geniuses and originality and encourages mechanical dullreds or the so-called average student. ठीक है, dullreds, राइट. तो डिस्करेज करता है जीनियस एंड ओरिजिनलिटी एंड एनकरेज मैकेनिकल डल रेट्स आर सो कॉल्ड एवरेज स्टूडेंट. जो पढ़ नहीं पाते उनको एवरेज बोलते हैं. दिस सिस्टम ले स्ट्रेस ऑन फैक्ट्स एंड डेट्स रादर दैन आइडियाज. इट इग्नोर्स ओरिजिनलिटी एंड क्रिएटिविटी. तो वो स्टूडेंट्स का ओरिजिनलिटी या क्रिएटिविटी नहीं देखता है. विच लीड टू प्रोग्रेस एंड डेवलपमेंट. ठीक है. इट इग्नोर्स ओरिजिनलिटी एंड क्रिएटिविटी विच लीड्स टू डेवलपमेंट एंड प्रोग्रेस. जो ओरिजिनलिटी होती है वो प्रोग्रेस और डेवलपमेंट की तरफ जाती है. बट जब कोई स्कूल इग्नोर कर देता है ओरिजिनलिटी को, इट वोंट लीड टू progress or development. No wonder then that most of the students manage to pass the examination by cramping. Cramming means learning by mugging up. ठीक है. तो ऐसे बताया जाता है कि जो हाफ ऑफ द स्टूडेंट्स है ना वो लर्न कैसे करते हैं, रट के. लर्निंग थिंग्स बाय हार्ट एंड रिपीटिंग इट इन द एग्जाम. द parrot like learning or learning without understanding may help him to get the diploma but fails to एनरिच द माइंड और इनकलकेट आइडिया. उसमें बोला जो क्रैम्पिंग लर्निंग है वो पास तो करा देगी, बट जो हमारा जो माइंड है जो एनरिच होगा और आइडियाज़ इनकलकेट है उनको हटा देगी. द टीचर्स एंड अथॉरिटी इंसिस्ट ऑन डिसिप्लिन एंड कन्फर्मिटी. द हिस्ट्री टीचर एंड द हेड टीचर आर स्टिकलर्स और for rules. ठीक है. The head teacher they are very sticklers means they are very strict to rules, pedagogy and discipline. Brilliant students like Albert Einsteins are considered dullard, stupid, incompetent, unfit rebels whose very presence makes it impossible for teachers to teach and other pupils to learn. Now next question. How do you distinguish between information gathering and insight information? अब हमको बताना है डिस्टिंक्शन बिटवीन इंफॉर्मेशन दैट वी गैदर और जो हमें अपने आप आती है. लर्निंग द डेट्स ऑफ बैटल्स और द डिटेल्स अबाउट विक्टोरियस आर्मीज आर फैक्ट्स. दीज डिटेल्स आर पार्ट ऑफ नॉलेज विच आर कंटेंट बेस्ड. है ना, हमारे पास कंटेंट होते हैं. देयर इज़ नो पॉइंट इन स्पेंडिंग प्रीवियस ईयर्स ऑफ स्टूडेंट्स लाइफ on information gathering because dates or facts could be asserted from the books anytime by just looking at them. तो बोल रहे कि जो बच्चों का जो डेट्स है जैसे हैं हम उनकी सिर्फ असर्ट कर सकते हैं, हम बार बार देख सकते हैं. लर्निंग फैक्ट्स ऑफ पैरेट लाइक लर्निंग विदाउट अंडरस्टैंडिंग इज व्हाट वी कॉल इन्फॉर्मेशन गैदरिंग. तो इन्फॉर्मेशन गैदरिंग कैसे होते हैं, जैसे हम रटते हैं जिसको हम क्रैमिंग कहते हैं, जिसको हम क्या कहते हैं, मगिंग अप बोलते हैं. एनालाइजिंग द फैक्ट्स ascertain the cause that led to a certain incident such as an uprising or a war and learning the ideas that spring from such actions are the part of insight information. Now analyzing the fact. ठीक है, हमको कुछ फैक्ट्स मिले, हमको एनालाइज करें. ascertain the cause, क्या कॉज हो सकता है, दैट लेड टू इंसिडेंट, कि इस इंसिडेंट के क्या क्या कॉज रहे होंगे. ठीक है, सच एज अपराइजिंग फॉर और अ वॉर एंड लर्निंग द आइडियाज कि वॉर क्यों हुआ था आर कॉल इनसाइट इंफॉर्मेशन. इट गिव्स अस क्लियर परसेप्शन, ठीक है, into the true nature of a thing. Such knowledge increases our logical reasoning, power of analysis, interpretation, and understanding makes us clear. Why was Mr. Brown speechless for a moment? For a few moments, Mr. Brown said, "Albert, in which year the Persians defeat the French at Waterloo?" Albert told him that he did not know. Mr. Brown said that he had told them so many times. Albert told him that it was no point in learning dates. This could be seen in books. This made him speechless. ठीक है, तो speechless क्यों हो जाता है जब एल्बर्ट मिस्टर ब्राउन को बोलता है कि there is no point of learning the years. Okay, who asked for Einstein's theory of education and how? Mr. Brown, the history teacher, asked for Einstein theory of education. He does so deeply sarcastically and in a mocking tone, उसको टॉन्ट मारते हुए. ठीक है, बिकॉज ही है कि ही डज नॉट लाइक द वे ऑफ एजुकेशन। तो जो मिस्टर ब्राउन है उसको क्या मारते, टॉन्ट मारते, क्या बोलते, आइंस्टाइन थ्योरी ऑफ एजुकेशन। Question number 3. What is Einstein's view about education? How far do you agree with it? For Einstein, ideas are important and facts do not matter. He considers learning the dates of battles or the details about victorious armies meaningless. He is more interesting in the cause that led to the soldiers to kill each other. तो वो बोलता है कि there is no point in learning the dates. But why were the soldiers killed? What happened during the war? How was it like? Why did the war happen is more important. Why did the teacher reach to Albert's replies? Okay, now it says, how did the teacher, right, reach react to Albert's replies? What will a modern student agree with the teacher? Why and why not? The history teacher felt amazed as well as annoyed at Albert's stubbornness. It was because Albert challenged all the established norms of attending knowledge. Modern students do not agree with history teacher's view. Education is not mere an acquisition of certain facts and their verbatim reproduction. Why did Albert see no point in learning dates and facts? Dates and facts are part of knowledge which are content based. Albert thought that there was no point in learning dates and facts because, firstly, these could be asserted from the books anytime by just looking at them. Secondly, for him, learning facts was not education. तो उसने बोला जो facts learn करते हैं ना वो conceptually based होते हैं, right? And he did not feel that it is important. Do you think Albert is being impolite while answering the history teacher's question? Give your reason. No, Albert is not at all impolite. He addresses his teacher respectfully. Secondly, he answers the questions honestly. He does not think that it is free and frank opinion will annoy the teacher and will be constructed at impoliteness. What was the history teacher's opinion of Albert? The history teacher had a very low opinion of Albert. He called Albert as an ungrateful boy who ought to be ashamed of himself. He suggested that Albert should ask his father to take him away from the school. What punishment did the history teacher give to Albert for not answering his questions? Now, this history teacher's eyes got cold and cruel. Cold means he got very angry. He said he didn't want the lecture for him. He punished Albert by making him stay in for an extra period that day. He told him that he was a disgrace. Moreover, he didn't know why he continued to come. Why did Albert feel miserable when he feel school that day? When he left the school that day? Why did Albert feel miserable when he left the school that day? Albert was punished for his insolence that day and he had to stay for an extra period after the school that day. So Albert felt miserable because he hated the school and would have to return there for the next day. Going back to the lodging did not cheer him up. Why? He lived in an atmosphere of slum violence. His landlady जिनका घर था बीट हर चिल्ड्रन रेगुलर, तो उसके बच्चों को बहुत मारती, अपने बच्चों को बहुत मारती थी. एवरी सैटरडे हर हस्बैंड केम ड्रंक एंड बीट हर, तो हर सैटरडे को उसके हस्बैंड आते थे और उसको मारते थे. द वेलिंग एंड हाउलिंग ऑफ किड्स गॉट इन टू हिज नर्व्स, और जैसे वो चिल्ला चिल्ला के रोते थे बच्चे, तो ना उसको बहुत ज़्यादा गुस्सा आता था. He couldn't stand the indecent loud noise, so he couldn't bear, ठीक है, the incessant loud noise. Why did Albert conclude after 6 months alone in Mexico? ठीक है, what reason did he advance? After six months alone in Mexico, Albert concluded that he must get away from there. He thought it absurd to go on like that. He realized that he had been wasting his father's money and everyone's time. So he considered it better for all to stop just then. What does the biography refer to Albert's interest in music as a comfortable? Albert's lodging as well as school made him feel miserable. Lodging means जहाँ वो रहता था क्योंकि मारपीट का आवाज़, right? He did not like. He hated the school. Going to the lodging didn't cheer him up as he hated the atmosphere of slum voice. He smoothed him tired, nervous by playing on his violins. So music was the source of music was a source of comfort for him. Who's Elsa? Elsa is Albert's cousin. What does she think is enough to pass the examination? She normally lives in Berlin, where her father has a business. She thinks that one can only pass the examination simply by learning things by heart, okay, and repeating them in the examinations. A student doesn't have to understand what he is taught. What certain ideas does Albert hit upon to get away from the school? Albert thought that if he had a nervous breakdown and a doctor certified that it was bad for him to go to school, he would be able to get away from the school. This would be better than leaving the school and then forced back to if by his father. Who is Yuri? What part does he play in Albert's plan? Yuri is a senior student, perhaps of medical. No, sorry, beta, this is not Yuri. He knows a lot of medical student, and he's introduced to Albert to Dr. Ernest Whale, where it helps further Albert's plan by getting him medical certificate he desires. Now, children, this is Yuri is a friend. Yuri is a friend of Albert. Okay, he's a friend of Albert. Okay. Explained Albert. There are the students. These are the students' comment. Yuri living among poor students, Albert, them Albert thought them civilized human beings. Yuri told him that one of the students killed another in a duel. Duel is a fight, and felt proud of it. At this, Albert was filled with disgust because he hated violence. Yuri calls Albert the world's worst liar. Do you think this is an insult or a complaint to Albert? And why? It is a complaint. Albert is honest and truthful. He can't tell a deliberate lie. He can't deceive anyone. He is so simple hearted that if he tries to tell a lie, his face betrays him at once. Why was Albert quite nervous when he met the doctor? What does this nervousness indicate about his nature? Now, Albert was had been wondering all day that to tell the doctor. In fact, he was worried so much that when the time came to see the doctor, he was quite nervous. His nervousness shows that he had a very sensitive nature. Even a mirror worry would ruffle him up. How did Albert hope to convince the doctor? Albert declared humorously that he was going to have a real nervous breakdown. It would make him easier for the doctor to certify his illness. The next time Yuri saw Albert, he found that the latter had lost his high spirits. Albert confirmed that he would really had a nervous breakdown which would satisfy any doctor. Do you know what? Who was Ernest Whale? How did it help Albert? Ernest Whale was a doctor. He had qualified as a doctor only the previous week, and he was a good friend of Yuri. Albert told Yuri of the plan to leave school. Yuri told him to go to Dr. Ernest Whale to get medical certificate for the purpose. What advice did Yuri give to Albert before meeting Ernest Weil? Yuri told Albert not to deceive Mr. Ernest Weil. He should tell everything clearly. He should be frank with him. He shouldn't pretend that he had got what he hadn't. What opinion do you form of Dr. Ernest Weil? Young Ernest Weil had just qualified to be a doctor, but he was intelligent. He could not be deceived easily. He was frank, honest, and sympathetic. He means the confidence of his patients with his warm smile. His sharp analytical mind helps him to quick diagnose and suggestive cure. What did Albert tell Dr. Ernest if he certified that he had a nervous breakdown? Albert told him that he would go to Milan in Italy. His parents lived there. Dr. Vale asked him what he would do there. Albert told him that he would try to get admission into an Italian college or institute. How, according to Yuri, could the medical certificate help Albert? Yuri thought that the medical certificate would help Albert to enjoy 6 months leave from school. He would not actually be leaving the school, and if the worst befell, he could return and continue studies for the diploma. Why did Albert hope to get admission to an Italian? How did, sorry, Albert hope to get an admission to an Italian college without a diploma from the German school? Albert hoped to get a testimony from his mathematics teacher about his work. He had learnt all the maths that is taught at school and a bit more. He hoped that his certificate would help him to get the admission to an Italian college without a diploma from the German school. Why did Mr. Coach, what did Mr. Coach think of Albert? Mr. Coach had a very high opinion of Albert. Mr. Coach is the mathematics teacher. He thought that he couldn't teach Albert anymore, and probably soft he would be able to teach his teacher. Mr. Coach certified that Albert was ready immediately to enter a college or institute for the study of higher mathematics. What did Yuri suggest to Albert before seeking an interview with the principal? How far did Yuri's effort and suggestion prove useful during Albert's meeting with the principal? Yuri suggested that Albert should get a written reference from the mathematics teacher before seeing the head teacher. His mathematics teacher gave him a glowing reference. However, it failed to serve the purpose for which Albert wanted to use it. Sorry. What reference did Mr. Coach give to Albert regarding his wish to join a college in Italy? Mr. Coach wrote that Albert was ready to enter college for the study of higher mathematics. He also said that he couldn't teach him anymore, and probably he who is here, Albert, would soon be able to teach him. What did the head teacher tell Albert when he met him? The head teacher told him that his work was terrible. Sorry, he was not prepared to have him in the school and any longer. He wanted him to leave the school then. What did the head teacher tell Albert when the latter asked him what crime he had committed? The head teacher told Albert that his presence in the class made it impossible for the teachers to teach. It was also impossible for the pupils to learn. He refused to learn and rebelled constantly. No serious work could be done before he was there. Albert felt the medical certificate almost burning a hole in the pocket. What does the author mean? Einstein was eager to show the medical certificate to the head teacher, and notice how he reacted. However, the certificate was now become unnecessary. Probably the head teacher had decided to expel Albert. How did Albert leave his school where he had spent 5 years? Albert left his school without any regrets. He, in fact, left his arrogantly. It was because of the bad treatment meted out to him by the head teacher. He didn't turn his head to have even a last look at this school. Okay. Now students will be doing long question answers. Now relate in your own words that transpired between the history teacher Mr. Brown and young Einstein. Mr. Brown, the history teacher, laid stressed on learning dates and facts. तो मिस्टर ब्राउन ने बोला कि क्या करना चाहिए, dates and facts को करना चाहिए. He repeated them often enough for his students to learn them. Young Albert Einstein was found wanting. He didn't know in what year the Persian defeated the French at Waterloo. Albert frankly admitted that he did not know. He said that he did not ever try to learn dates. He claimed that he couldn't see any point on learning dates. One can always look them up in the book. The teacher felt angry as well as amazed at Albert's stubbornness, and the boy insisted that learning fact is not education, right? तो उसने बोला कि फैक्ट्स तो हमें बुक में भी मिल जाएंगे, दैट इज़ नॉट एजुकेशन, राइट? And he actually gave answers to his teacher which was not liked by him, which was not liked by the teacher, Mr. Braun. Mr. Braun then sarcastically asked Albert to tell the class the Einstein theory of education. इसमें उन्होंने क्या करा? Sarcastic, उसको क्या मारा है? Taunt. Albert said the ideas are more important than facts. Instead of learning the dates of battles or which of the armies killed more men, he would be more interested in learning why those soldiers were trying to kill each other. Mr. Braun felt exa- um, uh, ex- exasperated. His eyes were cold and cruel. He punished Albert by making him stay in for an extra period that day. He had a low opinion of Einstein and called him a disgrace. He wondered why he continued to come to school. Albert politely replied that it is not his wish. Mr. Brown, angry, called him as an ungrateful boy who ought to be ashamed of himself. He suggested that the boy should ask his father to take him away. Where the teacher, interested in understanding Albert and bringing out his potential, the extract mentions only two of the teachers of young Einstein. They are Mr. Braun, the history teacher, and Mr. Koch, the mathematics teacher. The former was at all interested in undertaking Albert and bringing out his potential. He followed the traditional methods and philosophy of education, which laid more stress on acquisition of knowledge. Dates and facts were most important for him to him than the causes which led to the events. Secondly, he had a sarcastic attitude and mocking tone towards Einstein. Instead of helping the development of a talented boy, he complained to the head teacher and got him expelled. Mr. Coach appreciated Mr. Genius and Mr. Coach appreciated Einstein's genius and had a good opinion for him, but he too was confined to his subject and didn't take interest in the real person. All this was because of curriculum centered approach. What factors made Einstein's life in Minico miserable? What did he realize after 6 months? Two factors made Einstein's life in Menico miserable. These was his school and residential environment. The school was a hateful place. He had many bad days when he got punished. He hated going back to school, but he had no option. He wishes that his father would take him away. However, he was forced to stay there and obtain diploma. Einstein found the system of education uninspiring and the teacher unsystematic. He had his lodging to the poorest quarters of Menico. The food was bad, lack of comfort, dirt, and squalor. Squalor means rubbish, garbage. Made his life miserable. The atmosphere of slum violence was oppressive. The landlady would beat her children. ठीक है. Her husband would come home on Saturdays. He would get drunk and beat his wife. Albert found young students fighting duels and killing others. The scars on the face were the badges of honor for the victors. Comment on the role of Yuri as described. Yuri performs an important role in the in young Albert's life. He's friend, philosopher, and guide of Albert. He's in the fact Albert's confident spelling. He's a fact of Albert's confident. Okay, children. He has won the love and trust of Albert of such an extent that he confides his miseries, problems, and plans with him. Yuri is the only person in Menico that Albert's like. Yuri gives among um, poor students who frequently indulge in fighting duels. Yuri helped Albert in his plans to obtain a medical certificate of nervous breakdown, advising rest for 6 months. He introduces Albert to Dr. Ernest Whale and asks Albert to be frank with him. Dr. Wade turns out to be a sympathetic soul and issues him the much needed certificate. Yuri again guides the courses of Albert's ship of life. He advises Albert to obtain a written reference from the mathematics teacher before seeing the head teacher. Albert follows his advice faithfully. The certificate, however, proves useless because the head teacher because the head teacher has already decided to expel Albert from his undesirable activities. This, however, does not diminish Yuri's role in Albert's life. He is like a pillar of strength to the miserable young Albert in foreign land. Now, what stratagem, that is plan, जो बोलते हैं strategy, did Einstein devise to stay away from the school for 6 months, and how far did he succeed? Albert had told his father to take him away from the school. However, his father insisted that he should obtain a diploma first. Hence, he was unwilling to take Albert away from school. For Albert, staying at the school meant wastage of time and money. One day, he had a bright idea. He asked Yuri if he knew some friendly doctors. He could say that Albert suffered from nervous breakdown. The doctors that certified the disease was bad for him to go to school. They had to find a specialist in nerves. Albert began to look nervous and lost his high spirits. Yuri fixed appointment with Dr. Ernest Whale and asked Albert to tell him the truth. Albert was frank and truthful. He had entered some Italian college or institute at Milan with diploma. The doctor issued a certificate advising him rest for 6 months. The certificate proved useless as the head teacher was bent on expelling Albert. I knew you were going to leave before you knew yourself. You, who said it, and how did he know it? Substantially, with examples from the text. Mr. Coach was Albert's teacher. He was generally interested in Albert. Yuri told Albert to get a written reference from him. He willingly gave Albert the reference he wanted. He made it clear that Albert was ready to enter a college of institute for the study of higher mathematics. Mr. Coach regretted Albert for leaving the school. His logic was correct. A reference is usually asked when one leaves. Albert is puzzled. There are more surprises in store for Albert. He is summoned by the head teacher before Albert's request for interview. The head teacher does not want Albert to stay there any longer. Perhaps the issue might have figured in the staff council. The maths teacher was discreet. He did not reveal the confidential discussion. He gave plausible reasons for his observation. Describe how the head teacher made it easy for Albert to leave school. Albert wanted to remain away from the school. He got a medical certificate from Dr. Ernest Whale. It was certified that he had a nervous breakdown, so he must stay away from the school. He wanted to see the head teacher. Next day, the head teacher called Albert for his office, yeah, to his office. He told Albert that his work was terrible, so he was not prepared to have him in the school. Albert asked if he should think he was to be expelled. The head teacher told him that if he left the school for his own accord, the question wouldn't arise. Albert asked what crime he had committed. The head teacher told him that the teacher couldn't teach the class even when he was in it. Okay, in his presence, the pupils couldn't learn. Albert wanted to tell the head teacher that what he thought of him and the school, but he did not say anything. The head teacher asked him to close the door behind him, but Albert did not do so, nor did he have the last look at his school. He met only Yuri. Suppose you are the principal of young Albert's school. What changes in education system would you like to introduce to make it more effective, meaningful, and purpose? If I were the principal, yeah, if I was the principal, of Albert's school, I would bring in drastic change. I have a clear concept of education. For me, education means drawing out best in the students. I'll help to develop an individual personality by encouraging the budding talent. I know that all are not cast in the same mold. Our old system talks of uniformity and average students' level. These are abstract principles. Education will force on individuals' aptitude and talent. There will be no cramming of facts, dates, and multiplication tables. The audiovisual devices will be used as aids to learning. Computer will be supplement knowledge, and I will provide more facts or self expressions. Computer will supplement knowledge. I will provide more facilities for self expression. The atmosphere of the school will be relaxed, and I will act as the father figure, a friend, philosopher, and guide rather than a tormentor. I hope to inculcate values through examples of personal conduct. Thank you, students. Please like, share, and comment. Thank you, student. Thank you very much.